Good day and welcome. My name is Jim LaBianca. This is my second presentation for the University of Louisville ELFH 316 class, Instructional Strategies and Group Facilitation Techniques. My presentation today will be on designing a user experience using eye scanning and personality tests. So our first thing is, what is a UX versus a UI? Not all websites and applications are created equal. We all know we've been to websites that we like to use, things like Amazon, where we enjoy the shopping experience versus other sites we've used and will never go back to. This is because of clunky feature sets or bad data flow. They don't tell you what you need to do when completing things and items in your shopping cart. We've also used applications which are designed primarily with a user interface. This is just a menu with a series of different forms of content where you type things in for data entry or something to do with the application and how it's used. So this is a huge difference, and it's a different way of actually designing your application so that way the users enjoy using it. Now here we see Amazon. This user experience actually shows us why we would want to use this and why we use Amazon every day. And this is why it's one of the most popular sites on the internet. Here, as you see, we go through, the flow of the data is very, very well put together. It is defined content for me. It is very visual, and it shows me all the different types of items that I can get. Here I have things like movies and cameras. This is all content related to me and things I've looked for in the past and done searches on. It shows different things like pictures, so that way I can actually see the relative content and I actually can click on them from there. As you see, as I said, this is content related to me. It also shows things that it thinks I might like based on other things. It knows I have an iPhone, so here's some different phone things. It knows your past and things you bought for others. Now, this is TurboTax. TurboTax is a product site based on a specific product line. Their whole thing is to sell you a product. This is a good example of a user experience. When you go in, I can see two things are relatively immediate for me. How to buy and the 3 different versions of applications that they have. I can then look at it, I can say which ones are fit for me, and I can click through the buying. Here's TaxAct. This is one of their competitors. Here I can see that they give me an option to start for free, which is where your eyes actually grab first because of the color. The color in this experience drives your eyes to that. Also, you can see I have the different flavors of application at the very bottom, and I can see how to relatively quickly go in and start using those. We've all used Google Maps. Google Maps is a very, very simplified user experience. Within Google Maps, you go in and it actually targets where you are, and then up in the upper box corner, you can type in where you want to go. Once you've done that, the actual menu system drops down and says, do you want directions from where you are to where you want to go? Very, very easy to use and very intuitive. That's why it's the largest used mapping program. This is an example of a very bad user experience. Here, the user really doesn't know what to do. We see a search box, but I don't know what I should be searching for. Are those buttons? Are those links? What do I do with those people? This interface does not tell me how to use the application or where I need to go. This is another example of a bad user interface. This is actually a current site for an author who's trying to sell books. From this, I don't get what his product is or what he wants to sell. This doesn't make me want to buy his book. It also doesn't make me think that his book's going to be full of any relative content. Now let's look at a couple of different competitors. Here you have Orbitz. Orbitz is one of the big travel sites. Here it tells you go in and fill out your information. This does not make me want to travel. Here's our competitor. It's Expedia. Their interface is built a little bit easier. It's a little simplified, but it has pictures of travel. Across the top you see it has bundled deals, homes, cars, flights, cruises. These are things that are going to make you want to travel. And this whole experience is better than this Orbitz experience that, again, does not make me want to go anywhere. All right, good. All right, so now we're going to actually have a practice session. So in this session, we're going to break into groups of 2 to 4 people, and I'm going to hand out a sheet that's going to give you a defined set of website criteria. Then you're going to go through as your team and build out a first piece of a user experience. As we go through this session, we will actually build on this first base. So I'm going to give you 45 minutes. Go ahead and complete this based on the experience you have, and also include a 15-minute break in there, and we'll regroup. All right, so in the lab we went through and we took the criteria that were given you, and then you went through and you actually build out your initial design. We're not going to review those at this time. It's just based on your current experiences, your experiences with other applications. So now we're going to get into, for the next 45 minutes, we're going to talk about eye scanning techniques. So with eye scanning, right, it is how the users actually look at and interact with your page. So there's 3 different types of eye scanning techniques that are big. You have the left to right, which is how we actually read in English. So people are commonly used to scanning from left to right. We have the F pattern, which is the most common. And then we have the top, bottom, side. This is where they actually scan through the top, the bottom, and then go through the side menu. That's because a lot of sites in the past 10 years have been devoted to having a menu always on the right side or left side. Now, eye scanning is all about knowing your target audience. With eye scanning, you're trying to direct the user's eyes to the features and functions, right, or the products you want them to buy. So we use different techniques to actually get them there. The eye scanning is actually going through and saying, here's how they're going to look based on different things. And this is an example of healthcare.gov. So with this, we can see where people look. So as you look at this, you can see, based on this, where people are looking and what things are drawing their eyes. So where you see the word rejected in bold, that is a technique to draw the person's eyes to that so they can read that information. Content is always placed centrally. You always make your content part of your center stage. This is what you're trying to get across. This is your product or your inspirational message or your words of wisdom. Your customers came to see the content, not your design. So that is very important for you. Make sure that whatever you're doing, you're actually showing the content and your products, not just showing off your pretty design. And always make sure industry search, right, standards are search is always in the upper right corner. This is common, right? We generally put search in the upper right corner so that way everyone knows where it is. Search should be relative, so that way it's relative to this site, not searching automatically across the internet and taking them to one of your competitor sites. We use directional cues. Directional cues, as I said, things like arrows or making things bold, like the word rejected. Also, we can use colors. If we need video, then we can display a video, but make sure that the video is not obtrusive to your screen, right? Having a video or a big YouTube circle with an arrow in it will then distract people from actually looking at your content, and they'll want to see your video first. This is what's called the F chart. Now, with an F scan, you see the people come in, and just like we read newspapers, you read the first paragraph, which should give you a synopsis of what everything is, and then you may read the second paragraph. If you look at the one that's here on the right, the people went in, saw the first pieces, they read through the first lines, they saw the picture, and then immediately started looking at the box right next to it, which was to take them to other places and other articles. So here, looking at how a user reads it with the F scanning techniques, right, it'll take you through. This is another scanning technique that people use. They scan in a circle. So here they would scan across the top, see what page they're on and what content they're going to see, and they read down to see what their main carousel of news is or new features. And they read across the bottom to see if there's anything they want to click on, and then they come back up the side, back to the search box to see if there's anything that they want. So here they're just scanning around in a circle. This is a popular F scan. So again, here we look at our news article. You see the users focus in on the title and then they read that first paragraph. Some of the users then went to the second paragraph, but the majority of people immediately went to the upper right-hand corner to look at more popular searches. Now, unfortunately, some of those more popular searches might take them to your competitor sites. So not a good idea to have on there, or other competing articles. Those articles could be of differing reviews, differing products. So taking them over there would not be a good idea if your site is directed towards selling your product. But this is a review site, so we do want people to see more reviews. So these are the different types of eye scanning techniques. So what we want you to do now is break off into a practice session where you're going to take about 15 minutes. You're going to go back to your original design of your website and looking at the different eye scanning techniques. You're going to move some things around to make sure that your users are focused on the content or for the products that you're trying to sell. Does anybody have any questions? If not, we're going to go ahead and do our 15-minute lab and then take a 10-minute break. Thank you. All right, so we just finished our second lab, and in that lab we went through and we applied eye scanning to ensure that our UX design from our first lab with our products was actually tailored to make sure that users were looking at the products that we're trying to sell and they were visually taken to those. So we added in things like cues so that way it would direct the users to the products we want to sell, and then we made sure our interface was simple enough that the user could go in, see the product, and then click on those. So we applied good eye scanning techniques. The next thing we're going to focus on is how personality tests help with UX design. And so for the next 40 minutes, we're going to talk about the different personality type testing and how personality affects what users see. So in personality testing, there's generally two accepted methods that we use, the Myers-Briggs and the Enneagram. And we're going to focus on the Enneagram. In the Enneagram, there is 9 personality types, and then those personality types are broken into 3 pieces. So in those 3 pieces, you have people who see things with their head, people who see things with their heart, and people who see things with their gut. Each of those people will see things in different ways. Now, I myself am a 8 with a 7 wing and Enneagram, and that means that I'm very headstrong but creative. The way that I see things is with my gut. So the first thing I do is I go in and I look at a site, and I look at things like, are the colors lined up? Do the colors make sense to me, right? Is the product and the placement is well centered? Are the pictures that I'm looking at enjoyable pictures? If I was looking at a picture of a monsoon on a travel site, I obviously would not want to go there. So I look at those kind of things first. Whereas somebody who thinks with their head and actually looks at those, first thing they're going to look for is things like typos, or they're going to look at, I clicked on a menu and it obscured the content on the page, and those are the people who are not going to want to use that site. So it's very important that we look at all the different types of personalities and we apply that to our design to make sure that it is appealing to everyone around us. So now, over the next 10 or 15 minutes, we're going to go back and we're going to apply the different types of personalities on our teams, right, to our website design, and we'll finish out our lab. In the last 4 hours, we've discussed proper design of a user experience using eye scanning and personality testing to help make sure that our design was usable by all the different types of people. We discussed the differences between a user interface, a UI, and a user experience, a UX, and what makes them different. We identified the different parts of a UX, and we looked at different internet examples. We looked at popular sites as well as sites that were not so well designed. We then discussed eye scanning techniques and how people actually use those to better their sites to help sell more product or drive customers into the areas of content that they want them to be in. We looked at the different personality types and how those personality types all view a UX and why your UX should take into account all the different types of personalities to make sure that your design is as best as it can be. Thank you very much for attending this training session on designing user experience using eye scanning and personality tests. I hope this training has provided you some practical experience and tips that you'd be able to use to perform these tests on your coding in the future. Please take time right now to fill out the attached evaluation so that way we can better this class and perform better for users in the future. I thank you very much, and I hope you enjoyed this session.